Okay, great. Okay, guys. So we're going to get started. Hello, everybody. My name is Dr. Christina Reneo, and I'm a career development specialist at the Florham campus, and I'm also an adjunct professor. And here with me today, I have our graduate assistant. I'm going to let her introduce herself.
Hi everyone, I'm Amanda. Like Dr. Reneo said, I am a graduate assistant with career development. I think we're going on like almost like 3 years now, three and a
Mhm.
half. So it's been a while. I am also a PhD student in the clinical psychology program here at FDU. Yeah, so I'm really excited to be talking about your upcoming um what is it?
Career fair.
Career fair. It escaped my mind. We're already career faired out from the big one that we had.
So yeah, we're really excited to help get your resumes ready for employers for your upcoming career fair. And we have the logistics and the details for your fair that we'll share at the end of the presentation. But as Dr. Zombek had suggested, if you do have a resume, please have it available so that way you can kind of take notes if you'd like on it. If you want to do some editing, we do have an activity where we are going to be doing a little bit of the edit/review and just some really reflective types of questions to really keep in mind as you're editing your resume, getting it ready to impress employers. So we're going to begin, and Amanda's going to take it away.
Okay, so what are some of the things that we'll talk about today? So obviously we'll talk about a resume or a CV depending on what you guys have. We'll also do some like self-review on that resume, that CV. What are some like just like guiding questions, whether you do it now or later on your own time. We'll talk about that. Then Dr. Renee will talk about like the logistics of your career fair, so you guys can be all ready, the time to date, all of that kind of stuff. And then kind of just like details, tips for that event and what are some like best practices. Okay, so the first thing we're going to talk about is your resume and your CV, whatever you guys are working with. Just making sure that it's employer ready, that it is ready for when you guys have your career fair, that you can be handing out or that you can email it to them once you start making those connections. So you want it ready to go for this next upcoming week.
So
So
this is our overarching question essentially for this presentation. Is your resume/CV employer ready?
Okay, so your CV or your resume, whatever you have, but I assume probably most people at this stage have a CV. So your CV is a living document, meaning that you are going to be editing it all the time. It probably looks very different from the CV or the resume that you apply to your program with. So as you are doing things, as you're going through courses, different experiences, research, volunteer work, you always want to be updating it all the time. It's one of those things where you should leave on your desktop or somewhere where you know is easy to access. And every time you do something, you throw it on your CV right away before you forget about it. So it's always going to be changing. It's a summary of everything you've done educationally and professionally. Like I kind of mentioned before, that's relevant to your field. It's really a way to highlight your success, your achievements, all the really incredible things you've done, and pulling out kind of like the main points or, yeah, the main points of what you want to get across from your different internships or your education. And the last thing that we're going to be really focusing on, it's your brand, right? This is kind of like your first impression or one of the first impressions you have with the employers, with the people at the career fair.
Mhm.
So you want it to be in like the best possible condition that it is, and you want it to reflect you um in the best way possible. So we're going to talk about like making this your brand.
Okay. So when you're creating your brand, I want you to keep in mind, how do you want to be perceived by an employer, right? So again, when you're in a career fair, you're able to get in front of an employer and speak with them, and you're able to kind of control what their first impression of you is going to be. When you are submitting applications for fellowships, for residencies, for part-time jobs, full-time jobs, internships, whatever it may be, right? The only thing that they really can see is that document that you're submitting. through the computer most of the time. I would argue probably about 95% of the time is when you're really submitting resumes and cover letters for different opportunities, it's really through the internet. So when you're creating your brand, right, when we think of brands out there and we are consumers and we have different brands and we have favorite brands, right, we see consistency, right? We see advertising, marketing, the colors are the same, they're standing out. We see consistency in these things, right? So the example I like to use is Nike, right? What's Nike's symbol? Let's start there. What's Nike's symbol?
The swoosh.
The swoosh, right? The check mark. Everyone knows when they see that it's Nike, right? Does anyone know what Nike's tagline is?
You can do it?
Close. Just
Oh.
do it, right?
Oh, just do it. Okay.
So what we're trying to do for your resume, your CV, is kind of have that component in terms of the consistency, that no matter where we submit it, what we submit it, if it's on LinkedIn, our credentials are listed, right? We're being consistent, right? We're creating a brand that's thorough. So the look, the format that you're using, the font type that you're using, the color, any documents, right? We want to create consistency because that is a representation of you. And essentially, this is the way that you market yourself. This is your marketing tool. This is a reflection and extension, essentially, of you. So a couple of things to keep in mind when you are creating your brand, your personal brand that you're putting out for everyone to see. So when we're writing a resume, right, when we're creating a CV or writing a resume or we're editing it, right, we're striving for perfection. And we need perfection in each of these areas: grammar and spelling, verb tense, right? If it's a job or something or an experience I've done in the past, what tense am I going to be using if it's in the past? That's your question.
Tense.
Past tense, yes. If it's a job or an experience that I'm currently working on in the present tense, we're going to be using the present tense, right? So we just want to make sure that, again, we're being consistent with the verb tense that we're using when we're talking about our experiences. The formatting, right? We want to make sure that it's consistent. So if your resume or your CV is 2 pages or 3 pages, we want to make sure that the margins are going to be the same on each of those pages, right? We don't want to have half-inch margins, 1-inch margins, 1.5-inch margins, right? We want to, again, make sure that the format is consistent. Same thing with the font that we're using. The content and the detail. What you include on a resume needs to matter, right? I like to say that resume is real estate, space matters. So you really have to plan with intent what you're going to put on here. What do you want the employer to know, right? The length. So for pharmacy students, it is not unheard of that resumes are longer than traditional, or CVs, I should say, are longer than traditional resumes. So if you're applying, let's say, for a full-time opportunity within, the corporate world, right? The rule of thumb, sometimes there's 2 different schools of thought. Some people say that it should be a 1-page resume, and that's really for students who are kind of just starting out, entry level, like coming from an undergraduate type of role. But, this is graduate school. So sometimes a lot of life and experiences happen between the time that, you are an undergraduate, maybe you have professional experience and you're kind of going back to school. And also too, there's a lot more involved in terms of what you're studying, right? There's presentations, there's research, like there's different things that you're taking advantage of. So your resume is going to have a little bit more experiences to put on. So your length kind of changes. So traditional resume, 1 to 2 pages, but it's not unheard of that a pharmacy or academic type of CV is 2 to 3 pages to incorporate all those wonderful things that you have done. And then again, overall look and feel, right? People normally see with their eyes, right? So we want to make sure that what we are visually presenting is visually appealing. So we have an example of not a good resume, right? And looking at this, why do you think this is not a good resume? You can unmute yourselves and participate if you'd like.
Or you can put in the chat. I can read it in the chat too.
Or that's fine as well.
Maybe the coursework shouldn't be listed.
It's kind of a personal preference if you want to include coursework or not. So maybe, depending on your school of thought, or, it depends. Sometimes it can be listed, sometimes it's not. If you haven't been in school for a while, then definitely we wouldn't necessarily want to list any relevant coursework, especially if you've been out of school for like 5+ years, right? Because courses change, standards change, etc. So that's a great point to make. What else? Do we like how this looks visually? Is it organized? Is the
Think is the
font?
font. Yeah, the font, and it's not from the very top. You see the name, how it was written, and then
Yes.
how things are spaced out, and then certain things is underlined and bolded, and then underneath it they have other things bolded too, and it looks very not readable.
Yes, excellent. Yeah, it's choppy, right? If somebody handed this to me and I was hiring, I'd be like, what is this? This looks very messy. It looks unpresentable, right? The font is different. What we're doing in terms of consistency, we're underlining, we're bolding, like it's kind of all over the place, right? So it doesn't really aesthetically look pleasing. So this is not something that I would necessarily want to continue reading, right? Because again, at first impression, what I'm seeing is not really worth me continuing to look into. So we have an example of what essentially not it should look like. Okay, so now here's an example of specifically, this is a pharmacy resume, right? Because I know we also have some OT and PA students in our presentation as well. And I have a sample resume that we can also incorporate. This is particular to pharmacy, right? So at the top, you have your contact information. You can include, if you wanted to, your LinkedIn URL. We have education. We have your IPI experiences. Do they also, Dr. Zambak, I'm not sure, do they do APPE as well?
So all of our health programs do either do a clinical or experiential. So it's the APPE. There's an equivalency for both the OT and the PA programs.
Okay. Okay, wonderful. So this is where you would put your different clinical experiences, right? The hospitals or the medical centers that you're working at, whoever your preceptor is, and then bullet points of what you actually did during your time at that experience, right? So this could be similar to if you were, let's say, putting internship experience, right? Instead of internships, it's really kind of clinical experience that you're completing. For pharmacy students, if you do have pharmacy experience, you would list that on here. Additionally, you have underneath that certifications, licenses, and training. So because your training and the area that you're in, your industry requires certain types of certifications, whether it's basic life support or vaccine administration. Sometimes students are pharmacy technicians and have that experience, right? This is where you would put down different certifications, licenses, and training that are particular to your field or area. You could also include other types of certifications and licenses and training. Let's say like if you took a course on Coursera for Microsoft Office, right? Or project management, and you received a certificate, or you're doing kind of the double major where you're majoring, where you're also studying for the master's in business alongside the clinical and getting the science background with the doctorate of pharmacy, right? If you're looking into like different types of like business softwares and getting certificates for that, you can also include that in this area as well. It goes on to show you can include if you are part of any type of extracurricular activities, right? Like organizations and memberships. So if you're part of any clubs, student organizations while you're at school, you can include them here. On the second page, so you'll notice that this is a multi-page resume. We have your research experience. Sometimes students participate in research experience and they would be able to include that here. And then talking about what we did before, right? The length is going to vary because you are taking part of sometimes presentations or you are doing research and you are doing publications, you are writing in scholarly journals and contributing, right, to different organizations and academic areas, right? So you would include that on the resume. If you have teaching experience, right? I don't know if, are they required in the School of Pharmacy to do any type of TA or can they? Is there an opportunity for that?
Not particularly. In certain areas, there is an academic rotation for pharmacy that exists where students can engage in that experience.
Okay, so that would be a section if you wanted to include that on the resume, you could as well. If you have any type of leadership skill sets or any type of community service, volunteer, that you would be able to put that down as well. If you have outside work experience, so let's say you have a part-time job outside of being a full-time student, right? Time management is your thing. You can put down your other work experience. Maybe you have a part-time job, right? You'll be able to put that down. And that's also important too, because it shows that you are able to time manage, you are accountable, you can follow tasks, right? You can multitask as well. So you can include any type of professional work experience that you have, even though it may not necessarily be aligned with, right? Like, let's say you do work at Dunkin' Donuts, but obviously, not related necessarily to pharmacy, but it does show a certain skill set that you have that you could show an employer. If you did receive any types of grants or scholarships, you can put that on here, any types of honors or awards, and then conferences attended. Again, that's also too part of being a professional student, right? Doing the research, making these presentations, having publications and contributing to, what the academic criteria and talk is. And then at the last page, again, this is the third page, we have additional skill sets. So any type of skill sets you have, whether if you're multilingual, you're bilingual, you can, research, any other additional skills that you have, you would be able to add on here as well. It's important to point out, right? When you have a resume as a student, especially pharmacy, right? Sometimes you're creating the resume while you're in school for those IPE experiences, etc. But then you also too have a version where, okay, now I've completed my schooling, I'm ready for the professional component of this in terms of I'm ready to get my job, right? You can kind of edit things and move things around. Like you're able to, if you wanted to bump your skill set up, you can definitely do that. So that way they can see your skills. If you wanted to add a professional summary at the top of the resume, you can. What we show you essentially are best practices and what's kind of really required to put on a resume, but how you choose to kind of put things where you want to try to put them is really up to you. You have autonomy over that because that's what makes it your resume, right? Sometimes it's a little bit from here, a little bit from here, but that's what makes it unique and that's what makes it yours. So it's important to remember that you can have multiple versions of a resume. You can have one for when you're strictly in school and you're applying to internships, for residencies, etc. And then you can also have your professional resume when you're ready to actually give it to employers and apply for employment. Really important distinction. Any questions so far? Okay, so that was the pharmacy one. Then this is kind of the general resume template that we use with students and even alumni too. And again, certain components you're going to be changing depending upon where you are on your academic journey and or professional journey. So when I was saying before, if you wanted to include a summary at the top, you totally can include a summary of, who you are, what you're doing, a snapshot in time, essentially the types of opportunities that you're looking for. Your education, if you wanted to include that, you could. Relevant coursework, right? If you've done any types of academic projects, you can include that. This sample here has the relevant skill set that's kind of bumped up. So we have relevant skill sets, certifications, licenses, and languages kind of higher up. And then under that is going to be kind of your work experiences, internship experiences, professional experiences. And similar to the pharmacy, right? We have extracurricular. So any clubs, organizations that you would be a part of would go in that section there. And then this is a 2-page resume. We have professional organizations or memberships. It's really important, especially if you're going into a certain industry or area, that you're following different types of professional organizations. Who are the professionals in your industry? You should be following them on social media. You should be following them on LinkedIn because that's how you stay relevant. That's how you understand what's happening, what's trending, what research is coming up. That's how you really kind of stay abreast of what's happening within your field and your industry. You understand there's changes and how you are going to adapt to those changes. It's really important that you start following different professional organizations within your field. And then we have a volunteer experience here, very similar to the community service presented before. And then we have an area too called personal projects. So personal projects are kind of like a way that you can essentially show your hobbies and interests in a very professional way. Sometimes you have a whole nother skill set that's unrelated to what you're studying or what you're majoring in, but it really could be something that makes you stand out amongst other candidates, right? So let's say you are going to become, I don't know, a pharmacist at a local pharmacy, right? like a mom and pop type of shop. So aside from maybe doing the pharmaceutical practice, maybe they're asking you to kind of create content, right, for marketing or like a social media, right, like an Instagram, run the Instagram account. And maybe you have experience, you know, running social media or marketing for a club or organization, or you really you like to enjoy taking pictures, using photography skills, etc., right? Those are other skills that you can highlight that could ultimately lead you to become more marketable to an employer. So something else to think about, but those are kind of the two, I would say, resumes and a combination of them that you guys would be using for applying for opportunities. Amanda, I forgot, am I doing this one or you?
You are.
Oh, okay. So with that being said, right, there's a couple ways that you can write a resume. You can write it on your own manually, or you can use assistive tools, right? Resume AI being one of those tools. Normally, we usually say kind of stay away from resume templates on, even though they look pretty on like Microsoft, right? Or Google, sometimes they have these really, really beautiful templates. We usually say stay away from them because when you try to edit them or you try to upload them to an employer website, sometimes things get jumbled around and it ends up looking like a Picasso. So if an employer is not able to make sense of the resume and they're not able to read it, what you definitely want to do is you want to make sure that you avoid that, right? You don't want to give them a reason to not look at your resume. So if you can, start with a blank Word document, or you can use assistive tools like Resume AI to kind of help you compose or write a resume. So I just want to kind of give an update. So in career development, we are in the process of acquiring a new tool. It's two parts. So the new tool, in place of Big Interview, if you've met with us before, if you've used our services before, we've had this tool called Big Interview that had a resume AI component and also a mock interviewing component. We actually replaced that with Hiration, and we're still in the process of like finalizing our contract with them. But this platform, Hiration, is really, really, really awesome. I had like a training on it over the summer and it's super helpful. So it does have the mock interview component. So it's a tool that's going to be able to be more confident when you're interviewing and interacting with employers and answering questions. But also too, it has a resume AI component and it's able to kind of grade and score a resume. It'll be able to grade and score a cover letter as well as your LinkedIn profile. You'll be able to kind of download your LinkedIn profile as a PDF, put it into the system, and it'll literally pop out a score and let you know how marketable essentially you are to an employer. But this being said, I'm sure you've heard of AI and everything that you're probably looking at, studying, some way, shape, or form. AI has become part of your life, right? And it's no different here in career development in terms of helping with building your resume. So there are benefits of using resume AI, right? It's definitely an assistive tool. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to start from scratch. It does help to match you to certain job descriptions, and it really does help to make resumes ATS friendly. ATS means applicant tracking system. So a lot of employers, and again, we don't necessarily know which employers, sometimes they're looking at resumes the old school way. It's a person that's looking at resumes and cover letters. Sometimes it's going through an applicant tracking system where you submit your resume, your cover letter. What it's going to do, it's going to compare that resume and cover letter to a job description. And it's going to essentially say how much of a match you are to this particular job description. Now, companies have the ability to determine a percentage of how much you are to that match. So let's say they set a threshold of like 65%, right? And now if you're not within that 65% of a match, guess what? You're going in the toss pile. So what you want to do and you want to make sure is that you are making it past the ATS system by looking at the job description when you're writing a resume or a cover letter, pulling out keywords that are familiar within your industry or for the job. And you're going to start to see, the more that you do this, you're going to start to see a pattern of certain words that are being used. But these are some tools to kind of keep in mind. I'm going to be having probably another presentation with a training on how to use Hiration to your advantage. So keep a lookout for that in the future. But we are going to be utilizing this resource a lot when it comes to reviewing resumes, etc. Any questions about that? Okay.
Okay, so let's continue talking about like your brand. And one of the ways you can do that is with like your professional summary, kind of like the first taste employers get of you. So we can go on the next slide. Okay, so your professional summary is kind of just like this quick snapshot of a moment in time about like where you are now in your education. What is like your current internship experience? So it's who you are in this moment in time. You want to highlight your experience, your education, what year you are. You can get a little bit more specific in that, what program you're in, again, like what year, stuff like that. Any type of passions, what specifically in like the pharmacy field are you going after? Um, I hear there's like different people talking about even in the pharmacy field, they want to go into like more of like the practice or like industry. So something like that. Any opportunities that you're seeking, right? Maybe within like with the person that you're talking about, maybe you're asking them, can you tell me a little bit more? um, about any type of internship opportunities you offer, or if you're writing it on your resume or your CV, you can put like a sentence in there about what exactly are you looking for, and then what are your key strengths? What are the strengths that you plan on leveraging if you get to work at this internship or with these different employers? So one of the things you can use it in like your LinkedIn about me section, right? That little brief thing where it allows you to put like a little bit of a paragraph about you. I'm sure you guys have all seen that there. Also, you can use it kind of as like your elevator pitch with the different employers at their career fair. So you guys can be using it, I think, in about like 2 weeks when employers ask you, one of the things that they're probably going to ask you is like, just tell me about yourself. You want to be ready and prepared to have some sort of response. You don't want it to sound like robotic, that you practice it a bunch of times, but you want to be really confident in what you're saying, and you want to make sure that you're hitting all the points. So it's good to practice and to have some type of structure ready to go so you can just go and talk to all the different employers at the career fair. So we have, I think, an example. Yep. So like this is kind of like a template that may work for some people. So dedicated second year or first year, third year, whatever, PharmD, PA, OT student with a solid foundation in pharmaceutical sciences, medication management, and patient care. Experienced in patient counseling, prescription review, and interdisciplinary collaboration. Passionate about optimizing therapeutic outcomes and expanding clinical knowledge through hands-on experience, eager to apply skills in a dynamic healthcare settings. So you can see this is kind of like it's punchy, like it gets to the point. It's not, this huge paragraph. It's also well written. If you are going to include any professional summary experience, whether it's on your LinkedIn, if it's on the top of your CV, you want to make sure it is well written. This is your employer's first time reading something that you wrote. So if this isn't written well, they are probably not even going to trust any of the other things you write, and it's just like a bad first impression. So make sure it is well written. And then if you plan on using this for your like elevator pitch, this just put it into like like sentences. You can break it up a little bit more. Um, but something like this where it talks about, again, what year you are, what program you're in, what is your kind of foundation in some of the classes you've taken, what is your experience, if you have done any type of internships, volunteer work, anything like that, and then what specifically are you interested in, what are you specifically looking for, and then what can or how can you be of value to that company? Okay, so going back to resumes or to CVs, so we'll talk a little bit about like structuring a bullet point. So one of the really important things is you want your resume to be full of action verbs. It's kind of tiny here. I don't know if you guys can see it, but this list here are a bunch of action words that you guys can use. I know we'll be sharing this video, so you guys can like take a screenshot of that. If not, I honestly think I might have just Googled like resume action verbs, and this will come up. So it's important to be constantly looking at, okay, what verb like best describes what I did, and then like using that. And again, something like this is just great to get some ideas from. The key is that if you have already done that job, that internship experience, already did that project, everything should be in the past tense. If you are currently at your internship or your experience, it's in the present tense. I know it sounds really silly because you guys are like, of course it is, but I can't tell you how, like, this is the number one error on student resumes, all resumes that I see. I think a lot of times we update the date, but we forget to go back in and change the bullet points. So just double check if you have like your resume up with you right now, just like double check, is that an error that you see on your resume that you need to go back and look at? Again, this is the employer's first impression of you. They're going to notice things like that. And it just shows that it lacks like detail. It's a little careless. So it's an easy thing that you can fix to impress employers.
Just really quickly to add, action verbs show an action that was taken, right? Like you actively participated, you actively did something to contribute to whatever location or opportunity you were at, right? It shows an employer, oh, you did this. Okay, you can do this at my place of business, or you would be able to do this from my company or my organization. It's showing active participation, active learning. You're actively contributing and doing something.
Okay, so writing your bullet points for your resume. Again, this is just another way to impress employers. This is the first time they're reading what you're writing. You want your bullet points to be strong. You want them to be grammatically correct. You want them to make sense. So first, for every bullet point, you're going to start with a strong action verb. What we just talked about. So once you have your action verb that you want to use, you want to talk about what you did, or I guess what you are doing. So briefly talk about what is the task, the duty, the responsibility. If possible, always quantify. It just adds more kind of substance. It's impressive. So for example, aid 10 college students in. Or increase sales by 30%. So I'm talking about what I'm doing, I'm quantifying it, but these right now are they're weak, right? So then we want to make sure we're adding additional information and we're adding those descriptive results and details. So you want to go beyond just that kind of briefly saying what you want to do, and you want to describe how, why you did it even, when or how often are you doing that? Did you accomplish something? What was the result of that? What was the impact? Why was it important? So for example, aid 10 college students on a weekly basis in professional writing, such as resume and cover letters. So I'm saying how often I do that. I'm saying how many students, right? For maybe you guys, it's going to be patients. And I'm specifically saying what I am doing with them, resume writing and cover letter writing. Another really just quick thing that I always see on resumes is I don't know if there's a right or wrong answer. Some people like to put periods at the end of their bullet points. Some people
I do.
don't. Um,
Dr.
whatever
Renee does.
you decide to do, just make sure it is consistent. I will see some people have like, under the same experience, put a period for two of their bullet points and won't for the third one. Doesn't really matter what you do. I've seen both. Make sure it is consistent. So that's another thing real quickly. If you guys have your resume out, is there like random periods? Um, yeah, so your resume, you want the bullet point to be too long. If it can stay on one line, that's especially great. Um, but you want them to be punchy and to the point. Okay, let's see what else. Okay, overall, kind of just what we've been talking about. Perfection is key. You really just want it to be as perfect as possible. Paying attention to all those little details because employers will notice those things. And if you're not going to pay attention to the little details on your resume or your CV, how are you going to pay attention to the little details about your patient? Stay away from resume templates and generators. We kind of talked about this already. If you really do want like a template or something else, you can either use the one we showed in the video, or we're happy to like also email you one of those copies, instead of just going off of, a website where you like plug in information and it makes it for you. It becomes a mess. So start with a blank Word document and go from there. And the good thing is that once you guys already have that like skeleton of your resume and your CV, you take some time this week, you're just going to be updating that. You will never have to really start from scratch if you put in the time now to make sure it's the best possible, document it can be. Then you'll just do copying and pasting and you'll be adding stuff. So it won't be as bad. And then just prepare for how are you going to hand it into the person. So is it going to be in person? So do you need to print it out, right? Or is it going to be through email? If it's through email or if it's through, like one of those job application portals, make sure that it is a PDF. Always make sure it is a PDF because sending it from your computer on Word to somebody else's, it is going to get messed up if they have a different version of Word. Even when you print it out, make sure that it is printed out correctly. So just
If
double,
it's, oh, sorry, didn't mean to jump in really
no,
quickly.
it's okay.
If it's 2 pages, we don't do front back. We always do 1, 2. So always make sure, if you have more than 1 page of a resume, you're not doing front back, you go 1, 2.
Yeah. And then one of the things too that I will quickly just say, whether you are sending it out like through email or through online, I always like to print out my CV because it's gonna look a lot different from on the computer to when you print it out. I don't Probably employers aren't printing out everyone's CV these days, but you never know. They might print them out. So you want to make sure it is also visually appealing when it is printed out. And sometimes it's not always. Like I know when I was doing my CV to get into my program now, I was like, this looks so great. This looks, beautiful. And then someone's like, man, just like print it out, just like see it. And I'm like, oh my God, the font is like so big. It doesn't look good. And I was able to edit it. So now whether it was online or if they did print it out, just in case, it still looked really, really good. So just a tip. Okay, so just for the activity, and you guys may have been doing this throughout, so just a little bit of a self-review. So if you have your resume and CV pulled up, just quickly give it like 3 minutes. Just check for any kind of like clarity things. Did you highlight your key experiences? Like, is it up to date? Is all your internship, work experience, clinical rotations, did you add it on there? If not, make a note. Are you using those action verbs and are they in the right verb tense? So check a couple bullet points. Are you tailoring it to your career goals? So if you are wanting to go in a hospital setting, are you, really emphasizing any hospital experience you have or like using keywords, your field best and kind of what they're going to be looking for. Um, and then it just the last one just like providing that feedback to yourself. So just take like a couple minutes, see if you see anything, especially if you have any questions for Dr. Renee and I, definitely like take a minute now to look because then we can also answer any questions that you guys have.
And again, don't feel pressured, but you have to have it done by today. You have time before the career fair. You can
Yeah.
make appointments with either myself or Amanda if you wanted to do some one-to-one coaching or have one of us take a look over it. So
Do you want to go to the next thing? Because we're getting close on time too, and we still have some things left over. So I think the next slide, we'll just like briefly discuss it and if there's any questions. So again, no pressure. Just in case you guys, I know maybe you guys didn't have your resume or CV pulled up. I always have trouble locating mine, so no problem. But did anyone just quickly want to like reflect or share anything? Like you're like, yeah, I was missing that. I need to include it, or any changes that you're like, okay, I need to go make now, so we can like, maybe everyone else can be on the lookout for that or any specific questions too that you guys have to your resume or CV if you're like not too sure and want our opinions or we can figure it out together. I oh, mhm.
I just
Go ahead.
remembered that I don't have like dots or at the end of each bullet points on my resume. So it's like, oh, I have to change that. So thank you for that.
Yeah. We're talking about like the periods at the end of your bullet points.
Yes, yes. Like I
Yeah.
have in some and then I think like I didn't have in the other. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
it's not consistent. That's why you said so. Thank you for that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, again, it's up to your personal preference, whatever makes sense for you if you want them or you don't. Like I personally don't, but I know I think Dr. No, you said that you do.
I love them. Yeah.
Yeah, so whatever feels right for like your bullet points, just make sure that it's consistent. Yeah, so that's a great one. It's something that it's like I feel like it's kind of like noticeable. So now when you hand out your CV, it'll all be really nice. So yeah, and a very easy change. That'll probably only take you like a minute later, and it'll make a really big difference.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Anyone else? If not, we'll go to the next part because I know we're wrapping up and we have a couple more things to talk about. Okay. I think, again, if you have any questions specifically, you can always email us as well.
So if anybody wants to kind of take a screenshot, and then also too, I'll be able to send this to Dr. Zombik so that you guys have copies of this. These are just some of the career resources that we have available. So just as a reminder, you are all FDU students, even though you are part of the College of Pharmacy and Health Sciences, you are eligible to utilize any resource that FDU has for students, including doctoral students. So these are some of the career resources that we use on a day-to-day basis in career development. So just to let you know, you do have access to those. You can, part of being a student at FDU and even an alumni, you are able to get one-to-one coaching. So I am the designated counselor for the College of Pharmacy and Health Sciences. So you can book either an appointment with me, but also you can book an appointment with our GA, Amanda, as well, because Amanda usually always helps me present to School of Pharmacy. So and she also too is at the same level in terms of being a doctoral student. So she kind of understands and can definitely probably vent alongside you.
Yes, the pain is real.
On this journey. So we take appointments I take appointments either in person or virtually through Handshake. Amanda does them virtually. So that's just some information. And here we are. We're at kind of the logistics of why we're here in the first place, right? Getting our resumes ready for the career fair. It's the 11th annual career fair that's happening on Friday, November 7th at the College of Pharmacy and Health Sciences in the School of Pharmacy building. I actually will be there. So I'm super excited. This is the first time that I'll be attending one. And then also too, just a reminder, you guys are also invited to come to the career fair that we host twice a year out of career development. That's for the whole entire university. Our fall one's usually at Metro, which just passed at the beginning of October. And then we have a spring one at the Florham campus kind of down the road, usually February, March. But for this upcoming career fair on the 7th, there are going to be representatives from pharmaceutical and the healthcare industry. I'm not sure if on campus labs, you guys have access to see which employers are going to be there. If you do, I 100% would encourage you to go on those company websites and, see what they're about, see what those healthcare industries, what are they looking for? What's the mission statement of the hospital that you're looking to get into or apply to? This is how you strike up conversations, right? You want to kind of do as much research beforehand to see who's going to be there and kind of plan your route. Who do you want to talk to first? So what are the opportunities or where are the residencies that you're really interested in? What hospitals do you really, are your top? Very similar to kind of how you applied to pharmacy school, right? You had your list of contenders and then you filled out your applications depending upon where you kind of really wanted to go. So same thing when you're searching for a career fair, right? Now we're on to the next chapter. When you're looking for your career, right? What companies do you want to talk to? Who are the people that you want to connect with? What types of programs do they have for residency, etc., right? Or maybe like fellowships or internship opportunities, right? You really need to do some kind of research beforehand and then plan, where you want to go and who you want to speak with and who you want to make connections with. I'll be there as an on-site interview / coaching. So if you wanted to kind of hop on over to my table and give me your elevator pitch, I'll let you know if it's a thumbs up or a thumbs down. I'm going to be there kind of, as your coach. So, I'm there as a resource and a tool 100%, use me. That's what I'm there for. And then we'll also be tabling too. So I'll bring some goodies and stuff, you know, and a list of all our different resources, et cetera, for career development. Just some tips. We're not really doing a career fair prep session, but just keep this in mind moving forward. Before the actual career fair on November 7th, make sure you're doing that research for the companies, update and print the resume, right? That's why we kind of met today, to give you some of those pointers. Prepare your elevator pitch, because you are going to be conversing. This is in person, right? We're not behind a screen, kind of like we are right now. You're going to be in person conversing with people. You need to be able to hold the conversation, maintain eye contact, and sound confident, right? Because you know you best. So you need to show that to an employer, what you have to contribute, why you're going to be an asset to their company or their organization. And most importantly too, plan your outfit, right? This is a career fair. You definitely want to dress professionally, professional attire, business casual, right? We're not wearing jeans. We're not wearing sneakers. We're not wearing sweatpants, right? We are going to be professionals. If you do need outfits, we do have a career closet with professional clothing on the Florham campus. It's actually in the mansion, and it's hosted by Silberman College of Business. So if you do need to borrow professional attire, that is available, and just email me and I can connect you with who you need to speak with about that. So some tips for before the fair. During the actual career fair, again, I'm going to be there as a resource. Make sure you're confident and you're approachable, right? You know you best, right? If you can, ask meaningful questions. That's where that research really comes in handy. Make sure you're doing, you know, the research on what the company mission is, the types of opportunities that they have, you know, what are the latest trends or research that's happening within the industry, et cetera. If you can, you know, make note or take note who you're interacting with, what you're learning throughout the actual career fair, because this is also a learning experience for you too. You're learning about these companies, you're learning about what they're doing, and you're making these types of connections. Collect business cards and contact info. A lot of the times employers bring, sometimes they give giveaways too, but they also too, it's really important they kind of get the business card, because that's the connection, that's the networking piece, that's who you want to follow up with after the actual career fair. We just spoke about resumes. If you can, please bring a folder, a professional looking folder, right, for your resumes and notes, so that way you do have it there if you are going to be handing them out. I've seen students sometimes are like, oh, do I have to print resumes? You don't have to do anything you don't want to do. It is advised to bring a couple of copies of your resume, but I've also seen students make their own business cards, and on those business cards, they have a QR code to their resume. So I've seen that as well at career fairs. But I would 100% advise you to bring a minimum at least of like 10 resumes, because you just never know who you're going to have a conversation with, who you're going to, you know, meet when that opportunity is going to come your way, and you have something to reference. Then once the fair is over, you're going to be sending thank you emails, following up with those people that you connected with, right? Because sometimes it's not what you know, it's really who you know. And that could be the difference between you and your peer getting the job, right? If it's down to two of you, one sends a thank you email, one doesn't, guess who's going to be getting that opportunity? The one who sends the thank you email, because that's part of the interview process, right? People remember these things. They remember the people that go the extra step, the extra miles. So just keep that in mind. If you need to follow up on applications, right, go to those different industry websites and submit the resume and the cover letter. And if you can, connect on LinkedIn. That is how you are networking as well. In person, virtually, that's how you kind of stay on top of, again, that industry, meeting people, building your network. And kind of just to wrap us up, so career development, we are guided by NACE, and NACE is the National Association of Colleges and Employers. So colleges and employers got together from all various industries and came up with these competencies. By the time that you are ready to enter the workforce, you should be competent in each of these areas, your career and self-development. And give yourself a pat on the back, because by attending this, you are working on the skill, your own career and self-development. No one's going to be able to do your resume for you but you. You're the one who's going to be responsible for getting a job and putting food on your table. So you need to make sure that you know how to manage your own career and self-development. Communication. Can you communicate effectively verbally and written word? Are you a critical thinker, right? Especially in those scenarios, right? Patient care scenarios, right? Can you critically think, and can you be able to do it under pressure and on the spot? Equity and inclusion, and understanding that everybody is different. Those differences should be celebrated, right? And that we provide inclusive environments regardless of, who or what people are, what they believe, etc. Leadership. Have you demonstrated leadership skills, not just, by being a leader of a club, but like taking leadership of your own life, right? What are you a part of? What are you contributing to? Do you have those leadership qualities? Are you a professional, right? Are you a professional? Are you able to work collaboratively in a team, right? Certain times you're going to be working independently. Majority of the time, regardless of the industry, you're going to be working collaboratively, a team, right? There's different people in charge of different things, part of a larger project management, right? And then technology, right? Are you able to utilize and understand the software, the technology that is current and relevant in your field and your industry? And you're able to use that to be able to be the best of what you are studying, whether it's pharmacist, PA, OT, allied health, etc. Okay, so these are the competencies that you need to have by the time that you graduate. And that's really what we have for you today. So I'm going to say, number one, thank you for attending this. Number two, if you do want to schedule a one-to-one appointment, you can do so. You can either email myself or Amanda, and we'll be happy to meet with you to kind of individually go over your resume if you have any questions, or if you kind of just want to practice your elevator pitch. Like I said, I will be there as a resource. I'm in your corner. I'm on your team. And then my email address is on here, as well as the Career Center at the Forum campus. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Good luck at the career fair.
Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Bye, everybody. Oh, I do see a question in the chat really quickly. Oh, to me. Never mind. Anybody else on here have any specific questions or?
Okay, I guess we can log off and then I'll stop when we, right? Okay.
Yep.
Bye, everyone.
Okay. Bye, everybody. Thank you for attending. And then this presentation will be shared with you guys. It's recorded. So Dr. Zombek will be sharing it with you all. Thank you so much.